Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Daily Stand-Up. In this one, I'm going to pull up my architecture diagram that I drew on a previous Daily Stand-Up, and we're going to actually add to this diagram. And we need to add a few things. We have to add the REST API that we just kind of tacked onto our Rust microservice. We have to add the MySQL database that the Rust API connects to. And I think, do we have to add something else? Maybe not. Oh, I was gonna add a basically the method calls. So one of my pet peeves with architecture diagrams in general is like they get you to a certain point, but you still have to do so much kind of sleuthing through code and everything to really decipher, what in the world is happening. So we're gonna go back to this and make a lot of edits. So firstly, I'm going to add a shape for the database. And by the way, I'm just using Mac Freeform. This is honestly this is all I need, right? I just need basic stuff to represent, what it is really. I guess I use these for my cues, so I don't want to use that as my database shape. What shape should we use for the database? I don't know. What else do we have here? Symbols, basic. We can use a cube, even though it's not really. We'll use a cube. Well, why not? That's what we're using. All right, so we're using a MySQL database, and it's going to be over here. And currently, can I change the color on that? Let's make that orange. So there's our MySQL database, and now we're going to copy one of these lines, and we're going to swivel this arrow up here, and we're going to actually make this a double arrow. So we edit that, and we make that a double arrow. All right, so this is our MySQL database that connects to Rust, and I need a way to delineate the REST API from the Rust processing part of the service. So I'm actually going to go and put a square inside. Can I? Oh, let's make that a different color. Why don't we make that yellow? We'll put that in there. So we're going to represent this as a REST API that's inside of our Rust microservice. And we're going to draw a line to the REST API. And it's two ways showing you that I can hit the MySQL database. But we are going to add a text block to here saying that this is going to be our engine details endpoint. So get engine details. So that way we know what endpoint it's actually being like that. We know that what endpoint that line represents, if that makes sense. So that's one thing we did. We also have to add a line for the post method that we're going to be making, but we haven't made that yet. But I think I might do that outside of the REST API. The reason being, I think I might just have the Rust microservice itself post data directly to the database. So why don't we do that? Why don't we move this kind of up a little bit, get these things kind of squared away. Move that up here and put that more in the middle, and now let's just have here. There we go. Okay, so let's copy this text here, and we're gonna write post. So post engine details. And that's a post, and we're not really going to be receiving anything, so we'll end the line with that. Okay, so basically what's happening here is that we can see a REST API is saying we can get engine details. It's going to be returned through the REST API, or the Rust microservice is going to post the engine details up to the database. So that generally kind of makes sense. And now I need to, this is one part I haven't decided yet if I'm going to be doing, is if I'm going to make the front end call the REST API, or if I'm just going to have that REST API just kind of like publicly exposed that you can hit. I may wire it to the front end, just as a way for me to call it from the front end. So why don't we actually do that? So why don't we have the React front end? Well, it's going to route through the .NET backend. Okay, I'm gonna add a new route, and this is where the line is going to get a little kind of messy. So I need to actually move this stuff over to the left. Should be fine, and move that here, move that there, and move that there. Okay, let's move that down. Now we need a line that connects our .NET backend all the way up to our REST API. And we want that to be a double way line, indicating that we're getting a response back. It's kind of hard to follow. Can I change the color of these lines? I don't know. Oh, I can. All right, what color should we have this? Let's have this be, red, just as a way to distinguish, because it's kind of cutting through these. I don't want those to get lost. And then let's add a text box to show you what this is doing. So get engine details. And I should probably, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I should probably stop calling this post here, because this is not a post endpoint. We're just going to be saving engine details to table is really what. We don't have a method, right, to put in here yet, so that's what we have to do. So we have saving engine details to table. We just added our call from the .NET backend up to the REST API to get that back. So now let's actually change this color to correspond to the red color that we picked. So that way it's all the same thing. And I actually want this to be, oh, whoops, okay. Let's delete that and let's move this down here. Okay, so you can kind of get the flow, right? So now we have to kind of go through back through this and kind of color coordinate all the requests lines to be in sync with the route that it's taking. So this is kind of where we're going to have to actually look at some code now and then figure out all of our routes. So let's first start with the .NET backend going to the engines queue. So this is actually a big part of our system here. So if we go to the .NET, and we'll probably actually learn a lot about the system in this video, because we're going to have to go through most of the things, honestly, on the back end. So here's what we're doing. This is going to be, yeah, this is going to get pretty involved. So let's go to our engine. I think it's on the engines. Yes. Okay. So we have our engine component is responsible for sending all the data of the active engine simulation up to our backend. And the way we're doing that is with WebSockets, specifically with SignalR. So we're calling this, is it this endpoint? I think so. Endpoint URL. Let's go to where I'm actually fetch. No, that's Signal. Yeah, I need this here. SignalR, and then that's where I'm building my mock data. Okay, here's what we're calling it. So we're calling this right here. So we're calling await SignalR connection and then invoke, and then we're saying invokes a hub method on the server using the specified name and arguments. So the hub is this, let me see if we go to my connection. You can see the hub is, it should be this Q hub, right? That's the key. So we're connecting to that hub, and then the actual method that we're calling on there was, where were we at? Hold on. SignalR connector. is send message. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to delineate that on the front end, or sorry, on the architecture diagram. And I don't know if this is this too small. Might be a little. It might be a little small. Okay. Sorry if the first part of the video was a little too small. So we actually need to add that detail here. Oh, we didn't copy it. Hold on. Engine detail. So that's the code. And let's go ahead and put that. Oh boy. Can I make that all red or something? Okay. So, oh man, hold on. Line left. Okay. All right, so there's our signal R connection from the front end. This is going to get a little messy here. I need to actually, I'm going to reverse these because I want that to be associated with that. So signal R WebSocket, and we need to describe what it's actually doing. This is sending sending engine data to backend send message method. Okay, so that makes sense. And let's color these a different color. Let's color these green. Let's color the green because this is like our core, really the core functionality of like a lot of our app. So these are going to be green. Now these are going to the engine queue. So we're going to color that green as well, so they can kind of correspond to the same route here. So the .NET backend is, we need to change this. So if we go jump to the backend here and we go to the where are we at? Is it the hub? No. Is it? Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's calling this method here. So send message and then publishes it to RabbitMQ. Okay, so we go to the QHub file. So QHub and then send message. Yes. All right. And the reason, I'll tell you in a second, the reason I'm kind of going into this detail here. I need to signal R. I want to keep the engine data as kind of like the heading for these. So engine data, and then engine data on there. This might be a little bit of a tedious video, but we have to get all this stuff done, so I'm going to record it anyway. So, okay, that makes sense, right? We're going from engine data to engine data. So I don't know why my cursor color is like gray right there, but all right, so there we go. Now our engine data is going in a couple places, but we're going to make this green because that's where it's being consumed off that queue. And let's make that green. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we have this route here. So we're saying, okay, our React front end sending engine data via signal R WebSockets on that line of code to .NET backend. .NET backend is sending the engine data up to this queue, and we can look at colors to make it easily, distinguishable between other routes in our system. From RabbitMQ, we then know that our Python microservice consumes message, as well as our Rust microservice consumes that message as well. So now we have to add basically the route from the Rust microservice down to our notifications queue. So we actually want to color this green as well, because this is part of the same route. And that's going to be the important part, is because it's the same type of data. So instead of notification, we're actually going to say it's still engine data because it belongs to that path. But then we're going to say a notification notification to be sent. We'll just leave it at notification handling. So I need to, man, we're all kind of crunched together right here. Let me line left. Oh boy. All right, let me move this down here. That's kind of bad, but oh, man, I don't know where else to put that. Okay. Long message. Okay. We're gonna have to leave it like that for now, but let's move that over there a little bit. Okay. So we can see that the engine data is coming from our Rust microservice, which basically publishes the notification down to our notifications RabbitMQ. So let's make this green, and notification is consumed. So let's put again engine data on the top here, and then our notification is consumed here, and then we get sent back the notification here. So I need to copy this and put it down here. Notification displayed. And then this is the key part to this is that's also with SignalR. So I need to add that in as well. So if I go to Notifications Hub, which is actually that's actually in my notifications consumer here. So it's in the I have a notifications consumer. I might actually expand these out so that way I can show you like the producer and the consumer to the queue. Why don't we do that? I think that would help clean this up quite a bit. And I may have to delete this for now and then add my own text box in. Oh boy. .NET backend. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add in 2 boxes to this. So let's go ahead and make these real small, and let's make them like a, I don't know, yellow or something like that. And again, we're gonna wire up this, send it back. Oh no, I have to bring, okay, I gotta bring the arrow to the front. All right, so I need to add a text box to those, basically. Engine queue producer, which is called our queue hub. Engine, okay, queue hub.cs. All right. And that's a little bit messy, but that's where we're going to leave it for now. I'll come back and clean this up, but not on the video. And now I need a consumer of this. So man, I need to make this a lot bigger because I need a lot of space. All right. Queue, because we're going to have a logging queue consumer as well. Bring to front. Okay. Queue hub. This one is the notifications consumer, which makes it a little easier to notifications consumer. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And notifications consumer, and we need, now we messed up all our stuff here. Oh man, all right, I have to switch these, and move this arrow here and here, and get my React front end. Okay. All right. So signal R, WebSocket. Oh man, there's no way to add that. Okay, well, let's put that there and there. Consumer, okay. And then everything else that's not explicitly, and then we do need a logging consumer as well. So the logging consumer, which is actually bring to front, we have logging consumer. That's responsible for getting the messages to and from the logging queue or RabbitMQ. All right. Okay, so I think that we added a lot, and honestly, from the glance, it may seem like we didn't add much, to be honest. But we added the MySQL database connection going from Rust. We added the REST API inside the Rust microservice with the GET endpoint, specifically called out. And we added the kind of the color coding of some of this stuff. So if we kind of zoom out, you can see we added just enough detail to, I think, help with looking at the overall architecture of the system, at least this part of the system. I still have a ton of work to do on this architecture diagram. But one thing I kind of wanted to at least talk about as a whole for architecture diagrams is that I think it's real important to have them be as detailed as possible. And obviously this does not qualify for that. I'm still doing a lot of work to it. But it's easy to kind of skimp on the diagram details because you're building the system, you're getting excited about it, you're making prototypes, and you're getting it pushed out to stage and production and everything. But you can kind of forget to do the architecture diagram side of the work. But when the next team inevitably comes in to take over the system, they have to then go and kind of reverse engineer the system and figure out what's happening. And if things are missed on the diagram, it becomes just really complicated, and a lot of time and money is spent in trying to figure out the system. So for my system here, the way I kind of like to, I've switched my approach for architecture diagrams. Recently, I'm really trying to get better about including the specific method name on the call on the diagram. And I realize that it's another place that, okay, if you change the method name, you have to change the diagram. But you should be doing that anyway, in my opinion. And I like also doing the color coding too, because it helps you kind of trace the flow of data, if that makes sense. And it can be really cumbersome to do. But as your system grows, and this is a smaller system, but there still is 3 queues, 3 microservices, and 1 database. So it's a decent, there's decent amount here just for what we're doing. But if you scale this up to hundreds and hundreds of services and many queues and whatever, you can see how it can quickly get out of hand. And it just helps you from a code perspective. If you do have the method name, it gives you a starting point to go back and search for. But again, this takes time to do this, and in a production setting, okay, you might not have the time or the money to invest in making a fully fleshed out diagram. And I personally I like to lean away from the code diagrams, the ones that you can build with some different languages that then output a diagram. I don't really like those. I kind of like just the freedom to have it on a diagram and move things around. I get that it can be a little more messy, but you can put a lot more detail, I think, doing it this way. And obviously, if you come down here, you'll be like, okay, well, that just looks like random text on the front end. You really should make a legend, I think, a legend that tells you what color corresponds to what flow of data, what process it's responding or what process it represents. It's a little bit of a tricky art. Admittedly, it's not. There's no one way to do it. I love to hear other people's thoughts about how they go about making a diagram, because diagramming, it's one of those things that it's always wrong. I think, in my opinion, there's always something missing. There's always not enough detail, and if there's not enough detail, is it right? Because if you have to go back and reverse engineer your system anyway, what's the point of having a diagram? The diagram might give you a starting point, but if the diagram is only it only serves the purpose to tell you what microservices are being used, is it worth it? To leave it at that? But I don't know. I'm really trying to think about how I approach this in general, because if I look at this now, and after maybe a couple more times going back through this, it'll be helpful, especially the flow of data being color coded. If we do have to refactor something in this, or we have to introduce a change to a system because maybe we have some kind of there's an unforeseen bottleneck in one of the endpoints or somewhere, we can look at this and we kind of can begin to piece together new things in the diagram and kind of go about it that way. It's I think it's difficult, but it's definitely necessary, and you can only document so much until you have to put it in pictures. You know what I mean? It's hard to, for me, I gotta see how the data is moving in my head. It is going from service A to B, but then it's going to this queue. It's but okay, I gotta see that somehow. I have to see it, how it's going to my engine queue, and then up to my REST microservice, and then back down to notifications. Now that I can see that, I kind of can understand, okay, the general flow of when I start the engine simulation to when I see that real-time notification come down the front end, what's happening. I can now trace the loop. So anyway, that's really it for this diagram session. We're gonna have a ton more, I think, but these are kind of fun to do. They give you a little break from programming and stuff. So anyway, I think that's it for today. So I'll see you in the next one.